The independent wards on the 8th floor of Nanyuan District A had all the comforts: air conditioning, a TV, a mini fridge, even a small sitting room. Xiao Chen's palms were damp. She'd rushed home after school, changed, put on careful makeup, and followed Fu Ge to visit a very important relative from Beijing. The Qiao family had money, but they weren't part of the real upper circle. This junior, beloved by the entire Fu family, and especially Madame Fu, was someone she couldn't afford to offend. Her nerves were obvious enough that even Fu Ge noticed. At the door, he squeezed her shoulders. "Relax. You brought so many toys for Chen. He'll like you. I'm here. What's there to worry about?" Color returned to her face. She lowered her lashes, slipped her hand around his arm, and said softly, "I just don't want to embarrass you." He liked her dependence, the opposite of Qiao Nian's cool distance. Tapping the tip of her nose, he smiled, playing the steady protector. "Silly girl. I'm right beside you. My mom and brother are inside. Let's go." "Okay." Thinking of seeing Madame Fu again, Xiao Chun flashed back to the awkward lunch at the Academic Affairs office. Her smile stiffened, but she kept hold of Fu Ji's arm and stepped into the room. A boy of about 5 sat on the hospital bed, pale and delicate, features finely cut, adorable at first glance. His eyes, though, held a hard edge. Madame Fu hovered anxiously around him. "Mom, brother, I brought Chen. Hey, buddy, how are you?" Fu Ge greeted them. Madame Fu and Fu Xinian turned. Madame Fu gave a curt nod and then looked past Xiao Chun, still irritated by the morning's incident. Xiao Chun faltered, feeling wronged. How was she supposed to know Madame Fu's relative was a second-generation heir? At least Fu Ge jumped in to smooth things over. "Babe, didn't you buy pears for Chen? Why don't you slice some?" Grateful for the lifeline, Xiao Chun moved quickly. In moments, she'd peeled a pear, carved the skin into a little rabbit, and arranged neat bites on a plate. "Annie, I cut some fruit for Chen," she said, offering it. Madame Fu meant to ignore her, but the child wouldn't be coaxed, and the plate did look thoughtful. With a sigh, she stepped aside. "See if he'll eat." Buoyed, Qiao Chen approached the bed with a gentle smile. "You're Chen, right? I'm your Uncle Fu Ji's friend." Silence. Undeterred, she speared a piece with a toothpick and held it out. "Are you hungry? Want to try? Look, it's a little rabbit. Cute, isn't it? They want to play with you." Yi Kitchen turned at last, dark eyes catching her reflection. Xiao Chen's heart lifted. Maybe she'd won him over. Then he spoke. "Are you stupid?" Chun. Xiao Chun froze, tongue-tied under the Fu family's gaze, especially Madame Fu's open look of distaste. Forcing a brittle smile, she tried again. "You don't like the bunny? I can cut a kitten or a puppy. Tell me what you want. I'll make it. Do I look 3 years old?" Yi Kitchen's handsome little face showed nothing but impatience. He wasn't 3, true, he was 5. And he remembered her. In the river that day, this woman had stood on the bridge, pointing coldly while he struggled. Now, she wanted to play nice. Xiao Chun still didn't retreat. She slid the plate closer, voice syrupy. "Chen, don't be stubborn. You need vitamins while you're sick. Just one bite. You're so annoying." He slapped the plate away. Pear pieces scattered across the floor. Scowling, he rolled to the side and shouted to the room, "Get out. All of you. I want to sleep." Madame Fu yanked Xiao Chen back with a sharp, "Look what you've done." Humiliated in front of the fuss, Xiao Chen blanched. The plate had nicked her finger. Blood beaded at the cut. She swallowed the pain and said nothing. Fu Ge grabbed her hand. "Let's step out." 6th floor. After handing the meat Ganoderma to Aunt Chun, Qiao Nian chatted with Uncle Chen a bit. Seeing how sallow and drained he looked, she rose and murmured to Chen Yuan, "Come with me." She eased the door shut. "Farther," she said quietly. They walked to the end of the corridor. Making sure they were out of earshot, she cracked the window, popped a piece of gum, and chewed, the sweetness cutting through with a lemon tang. Leaning against the sill, she narrowed her dark eyes at him. Chen Yuan's arm was still bandaged. Bruises mapped his face. "How's mixing in society going?" she asked, voice flat. He turned away. "None of your business." She snorted and straightened, a wild edge in her gaze. "If not for Aunt Chun and Uncle Chun, you think I'd bother?" I didn't ask you to, he muttered, pride stinging. I'm not wasting breath. Her tone cooled. You said you make something of yourself. It's been 3 months. You haven't. Time to keep our deal. Go back to school and study. Stop making them worry. He didn't understand how she stayed so steady, like a ship riding out a storm without listing. She was his age, how? He gave a crooked smile. You think I can just walk back into class? He'd been forced to suspend for 3 months. Returning wouldn't be easy. Which school? She asked. I'll have someone notify them. Pointless, he said, but answered anyway. Rouse City First High. Class A. The homeroom teacher's tougher than the administration. She won't let me back to drag down the average. He'd once ranked top 5. He knew Shun Hui valued scores above all. Getting back would be hard. Qiao Nian's mouth ticked. What a coincidence. I'm also Class A at First High.
Hey everyone, Fire Scale Audiobooks here. If there's a novel you'd love to hear more of, you can support us on Patreon or Ko-fi. Depending on your tier, I'll make extra parts just for the stories you're most excited about. Usually I can only upload 4 to 5 parts of each novel, but with your support, we can go beyond that. And of course, don't forget to hit subscribe. It helps more than you know.
Yuan was completely dumbfounded. His carefree, youthful aura weakened entirely, and he stared at her as if he had seen a ghost. You also study? He said it as if it was as absurd as a comet hitting the earth. Qiao Nian asked seriously, Can I study? Yuan was speechless for a moment. According to her age, of course, Qiao Nian could study. However, he knew that her relationship with Chung Phone Corporation wasn't simple, and she could do medicine. Her connections were truly frightening. For example, his dad had been hospitalized for so long. Although he seemed to be living on the 6th floor in an ordinary ward, coincidentally, no other patient stayed in this ward, and he could freely use it as if it was his own. The single wards were available only to those with money and connections. Qiao Nian not only let his dad live here, but she had also turned a general ward into a single ward. The personal connections involved in this matter weren't easy. She was like a puzzle, and he had only solved a piece of the puzzle. Now, she was telling him that she went to the same school as him and was even in the same class. Such a feeling. Yuan thought for a long while, not knowing why he felt like she was a lion being locked in the cat's nest. Not far away, Gusan and Yi Wangchuan asked the nurse and found out that Qiao Nian was on the 6th floor. When they came up, they immediately saw the outstanding girl standing at the end of the corridor. Her unique, carefree aura. Even from afar, it was easily recognizable. But who was the boy beside her? Gusan quickly glanced at Master Wang, but he didn't seem angry. The blood in his eyes seemed to grow heavier, and he almost broke the prayer beads on his wrist. Master Wang, are you jealous? No, Master Wang would never be jealous over this petty thing. By the corridor, Yuan thought about it for 10 minutes and finally figured it out. If you have a way to get me back to school, I'll listen to you and return to study. You've thought about it. Qiao Nian was a little lazy and didn't like to be involved in other people's affairs, let alone help others raise their children. However, she couldn't leave Yuan alone. If you're sure, then I'll get you back to school. You have to study hard, get admitted to a good school, and get rid of thoughts about staying in that chaotic society. Otherwise, I won't be so lenient on you. If I can't control you, then I'll just have to find another method. In my opinion, disobedient children deserve to be beaten a few times for them to be obedient. Did she mean that if he returned to the chaotic society, she would find someone to beat him up? Feeling depressed and amused, Yuan nodded solemnly. Once I've made my promise, I won't go back on my words. For the time being, Qiao Nian decided to believe him. Out of the corner of her eye, she saw Yi Wangchuan and Gu Sin not far away and retracted her gaze. I have matters to attend to and won't be going back in. Tell Aunt Chun and Uncle Chun for me. She had always been unpredictable and busy, so Yuan was already used to it. So he waved her goodbye. Go on, I'll tell my parents. All right, Qiao Nian turned around and left. Suddenly, a low-spirited voice came from the boy behind him, as if he was releasing a groan that had been held back for too long. Qiao Nian, do you think that the only way for poor people to get ahead is by studying? What did he mean? Yuan held back for a long time and finally asked, My parents are unaware, but I know how amazing you are. I thought I could be as good as you without wasting time on my studies. But it wasn't as easy as I thought out there. There are social rules in society, and the rich determine the rules of the games. The poor can only struggle. Qiao Nian slowly walked to the top of the stairs and greeted the two people waiting for her. Brother Yi, Gu. She suddenly couldn't remember what Gu San's name was. Gu San reacted quickly and immediately said wittily, Miss Qiao, just call me Gu San. I'm the third child of my family. She could just address Master Wang as brother. It was music to Master Wang's ears. Sure enough, after hearing her call him brother, Master Wang's expression looked much better. Miss Qiao had been so casual and perfunctory about it. It was obvious she didn't care much about it, but it meant all the world to him. Qiao Nian nodded. Gu San. Don't call me Miss Qiao, just call me Qiao Nian. Miss Qiao reminded her of some bad people and things. Gu San very discerningly changed his words. Qiao Nian, it's a nice name. How about I call you Nian Nian? He turned his head and said to Yi Wangchuan, Master Wang, don't call Qiao Nian by her name. Nian Nian sounds more intimate. Yi Wangchuan narrowed his eyes and glanced at him. Gu San's boiling blood was immediately frozen in place. He stopped behaving arrogantly and stood with his hands interlaced honestly. Glancing at Gu San and then at the extremely obedient girl in front, Yi Wangchuan asked, You came to see Aunt Shun? After eating mala that night, she had mentioned that she had a good relationship with the woman who sold mala, but he didn't expect them to be so close. She even went to see her after school. Qiao Nian nodded casually. I guess. She had taught the adolescent kid a good lesson on the way. Gu San listened anxiously beside him, and then asked nonchalantly, Nian Nian, I just saw you talking with a boy of the same age in the corridor. Who was that? Yi Wangchuan's eyelids jumped twice, his eyebrows sharpened, and he glared at him. Gu San shut his mouth again, his voice low and sultry. He answered before Qiao Nian could. It's probably the boy we saw that night. His name is Chun Yuan, right? He's Aunt Chen's son. Qiao Nian didn't expect him to have such a good memory, and looked up in surprise and shock. Yes, that's him. Whoa. This was the first time Gu San saw a man explaining the identity of his own love rival. Master Wang was impressive, but he didn't dare to laugh and only swallowed his laughter stiffly. Since we're here, why don't you come to see Chun Chun with me? Yi Wangchuan saw that she was still carrying a school bag. He reached out with his beautiful, long, and slender fingers and took her bag with his powerful grip. Give me your school bag, I'll carry it for you. The school bag was filled with precious things, so Qiao Nian frowned and hesitated for a moment, but her bag was arbitrarily snatched away. If it had been anyone else, she would have flared up after such a violation. However, it was him, and he was inextricably linked to Jiang Li and the Jiang family. She stiffly suppressed her irritability. Her lips were pursed, but her contour lines revealed her discomfort and irritability. Or did he think that she would let herself be led by the nose every time? Chun Chun is the child you saved last time. Yi Wangchuan took her school bag and realized how light it was. He didn't ask her about it and said slowly, He's been throwing tantrums to see you ever since he woke up. Do you want to go and see him? We'll go back afterward. He already made it so implicit. How could Qiao Nian refuse? In the VIP ward area on the 8th floor, the Fu family and Xiao Chun had already returned. Yi Wangchuan opened the door and entered with Qiao Nian. The child with his back to the door heard the door opening and said in a muffled voice without turning back, I'm not hungry, nor do I want to play with toys. Don't pretend to come and see me, get out. Yi Wangchuan's voice was low and slightly threatening. Kitchen, get up. Upon hearing his voice, the tiny child on the bed seemed to squirm a little under the quilt, but he remained with his back facing them. He didn't give him the tiniest bit of face. Yi Wangchuan's temples bulged severely, but he couldn't do anything to him. He shouted again, Kitchen, I'm talking to you. Do you hear me? Gu San chuckled inwardly. Back then, Master Wang had been so arrogant and self-willed in Beijing before the young master's birth. After that, he had been suppressed and had lost his tenacious hold, all because there was someone more capricious and lawless than him. It just so happened that the young master's biological mother and Master Wang's cousin, Miss Yuchen, had died from severe loss of blood after giving birth to the prince. She had entrusted the young master to Master Wang before her death. Since young, Master Wang had a good relationship with Miss Yuchen. Since she had entrusted him with her child, he couldn't possibly be careless about his nephew. Yi Kitchen, Yi Wang Chuan, called the name of the little devil on the bed, his voice sounding angry, his eyes filled with indigence. Gusen tried to ease his anger and quickly held him back. Master Wang, Nian Nian is still here. Yi Wang Chuan rubbed his throbbing head. Having been angered by the little devil, he had almost forgotten about Qiao Nian's presence. Let me. Confidently, Gu San walked over and said, Young master, get up. No. Yi Kitchen's voice was full of anger, but at least he wasn't ignoring them. Gu San persisted further. Don't you want to see who's here? Yi Kitchen remained unmoved and refused to turn around. Haha, do you think I'm a 3-year-old kid? What kind of young kid was he? Amused, Gu San stood up straight. Oh, Master Wang, since young master doesn't want to get up, you can send Miss Qiao back first. When the child heard the words Miss Qiao, he lifted his quilt in one fell swoop and quickly sat up. I'm up. I'm up. Qiao Nian saw the boy turn and stare at her with a pair of shining eyes. He was about 5 years old, with flushed cheeks and a jade-like face, looking incredibly obedient. At this moment, his earlobes were slightly red, and he was staring at her shyly and happily, making her feel inexplicably pleased. You! After so long, Yi Kitchen finally saw the big sister who had rescued him that day. He was so excited and embarrassed and afraid that she would have a bad impression of him. Squeezing the quilt in his hands, he fiddled with it for a long while before finally whispering, I am Yi Kitchen. Hello, big sister. Oh my God. Looking at the shy and awkward behavior of the little demon, Gusan felt like he was watching a tiger acting cute, and he simply wanted to poke his eyes. The young master wasn't even so obedient in front of Mr. Yi. So what was Miss Qiao's charm? Qiao Nian pursed her lips and realized that he was greeting her, but she frowned, slightly overwhelmed and not knowing what to say. She didn't know how to deal with children, especially those who were 5 or 6 years old. She was silent for a few seconds before sighing when the little boy's eyes gradually dimmed. Walking over, she took out a gum bottle from her bag and poured a small sugar pill into his hand. Qiao Nian. With the sugar pill in his hand, Yi Kitchen's eyes immediately lit up again. He wanted to jump up for joy, but he paid attention to his image and could only resist the urge. Although he was reluctant to eat it, he was afraid Qiao Nian would misunderstand that he didn't like it. So he hesitated for a while before looking down and reluctantly putting the sugar pill into his mouth. It was so sweet. He squinted his eyes in contentment, looking just like Qiao Nian did when she ate sweets sometimes. Yi Wanchuan rarely saw Yi Kitchen's childlike state, whose tough guy image had softened. Is the candy good? Yes. Yi Kitchen bobbed his head up and down like a chicken pecking at rice. He liked it very much. He glanced sideways at Qiao Nian, afraid that she would run away. Qiao Nian saw his gaze following her the entire time, and he pretty much looked at her wherever she went as if he strongly relied on her. Although she didn't understand why he trusted her so much, she still pursed her lips and glanced at the fruits on the bedside table. Walking over, she took out a pear and asked Gu San for the fruit knife. In a while, she had peeled the pear. Instead of dividing it into small pieces, she handed the whole pear to him and asked, Do you want it? The little devil who had been so picky about Xiao Chen's pear and had even said malicious words to her was now like a completely different person. Without nitpicking, he took the big pear from Qiao Nian and ate it obediently. Yuan Chuan knew how difficult the child was. In the old manor in Beijing, this little devil only ate fruits that were peeled and cut well, and he had to be in a good mood too. Upon seeing how obedient he was in front of Qiao Nian, he sneered but didn't destroy the beautiful piece. Instead, he watched as he and Qiao Nian chatted randomly. Sister, the candy just now was so sweet. Was it orange-flavored? No. Was it an apple candy? Qiao Nian noticed that he would cover his left leg with his hand from time to time while chatting with her, as if there was some venerable disease there. She poured out another small candy and handed it to him. There, as if the candy was a little treasure, Yi Kitchen stared preciously at it, smiling brightly. Qiao Nian was beautiful and sassy. I'll bring you more next time if you like it. Yi Kitchen's eyes lit up even brighter, and he immediately nodded, obedient and cute. Yes. Yi Wanchuan looked at the candy pill and thought it looked familiar, but he couldn't remember where he had seen it before. Shun Xiongji saw Qiao Chun leaving excitedly, only to come back with a pale face. Distressed, she pulled her aside and told the servant to serve her hot soup. She even took Qiao Chen's temperature, afraid that her old illness was acting up again. What's wrong, Chen Shun? Did not go well? Fu Ji's nephew didn't like you. Qiao Chun angrily grabbed the corner of her clothes and hissed furiously. I've never seen a kid like that. I tried to please him, but he wouldn't even give me face. Seeing that she didn't like Yi Kitchen, Shun Xiongji showed a look of distaste and said disapprovingly, It's okay, don't be angry. It's just an ignorant child. I heard that he stays with the woman's side and doesn't live with Fu Xinian. No matter how hateful he is, it won't affect you much in the future. I hope so. At the thought of how confident she had been about pleasing the child, and how the child had completely disregarded her, Qiao Chen's heart burned in rage. Especially on the way back, Madame Fu's attitude towards her had been extremely cold, which had made her even more upset. At this moment, she thought of something and raised her head. Mom, is Dad back? Shun Xiongji watched her finish the chicken soup, then took the empty bowl and said indifferently, Why are you looking for him? He's busy and has a meeting in the evening, so he might return later. Oh, Qiao Chen wasn't surprised. After all, their family had developed well in recent years, and the company had skyrocketed and successfully been listed in the market, so her dad was very busy. She remembered what Fu Xinian had said that night, and said casually, Brother Xinian heard that our family has a good relationship with Changfeng Corporation and asked me for a favor. He said he went to an auction a few days ago, and the president of Changfeng Corporation bought a very precious Chinese medicine that all the big figures in Beijing want. He wants us to discuss with Changfeng Corporation and see if they can give the medicinal materials to the Fu family. Throughout her long years of dating Fu Gu, the Fu family had always treated her unsatisfactorily, and neither denied nor accepted her identity. Their attitude towards her had always been vague. Now that Fu Xinian was finally asking her for a favor, she had to do it well so that she could hold her head up high in front of the Fu family. Qiao Chan attached great importance to this matter, so she asked seriously, Mom, when Dad comes back tonight, you must explain this matter to him well. He must make the people from Changfeng Corporation agree to give the medicinal materials. We can give them as much money as they want. Shun Xiongji didn't really take it to heart and just patted the back of her hand in comfort. Don't worry, we've always had a good relationship with Changfeng Corporation. All of their theaters have been handed over to us to build. This is a trivial matter. I'm sure they'll definitely agree. Qiao Chen finally showed a satisfied smile. Mom, I'll go and take a shower first. Go on. Shun Xiongji watched her go upstairs, then turned and picked up her phone. She hesitated a while, then called Xiao Weimin to explain Qiao Chen's request. The next day, First High School's principal office. Shenhui got up early in the morning and received the news. She didn't even supervise the morning class and ran to the principal's office first. Knock, knock. She knocked on the door twice, and the principal's voice sounded. Come in. Shenhui opened the door and went in. Principal, is the Chen Yuan who you approved to suspend back then coming back to school? Upon seeing her come in with a look of fury, Principal Yu put down the pen in his hand, leaned back on his leather chair, and smiled. Teacher Shun, don't be so nervous. Chen Yuan's results weren't bad, and he only missed some classes. If he slowly makes up for it, it'll be fine. The blue veins on Shun Hui's forehead throbbed, and she protested stubbornly. Principal, Chen Yuan didn't just miss 1 or 2 classes. He took a full 3 months off from school. Still smiling like a generous Buddha, Principal Yu said, It's just 3 months. He can make up slowly for it. But the school exam is about to start soon. At that time, all classes will have their results. Our class already has Qiao Nian, and if Chen Yuan comes after taking a 3-month leave, how are we supposed to take the exam? Class A has always been the top class in first high school. If my class loses to the other classes, what about my pride in teaching Class A? Her voice was filled with outrage and indignation. Principal Yu sighed and couldn't answer her perfunctorily anymore. He had no choice but to tell her the truth. Teacher Chen Yuan is definitely coming back to study, and he just returned to the original class he was in. This matter has no room for discussion. I'll tell you this. I can't make a decision about this matter. Beijing's Wei family had personally come to find him and asked the school to give them face. Who would dare to say no? Shenhui went back from the principal's office under great stress and suffered from a throbbing headache along the way. What should she do during the exams? Class B had always been bitterly fighting over the top class position with Class A, and she even had Qiao Nian in her class, who was only in Class A because of a recommendation. If their class was overtaken by Class B after the test, they would become the biggest joke. She pushed open the door of the faculty office, deep in thought. Before she entered, she heard Chen Shi talking to the others, gloating in her misfortune. I heard that Chen Yuan, who dropped out of Class A, is back. With Qiao Nian and Chen Yuan, Class A is about to become a garbage shelter. It seemed like the head teacher of Class F was chatting with her. Teacher Chen, should I congratulate you in advance for completing the counterattack? Ha! Chen Shi disagreed. What's the point of congratulating me for winning a trash class? It's only natural. At this moment, the doors slammed open. It was during the morning reading time, and the form teachers had gone out to supervise their classes. Some of them had stayed in the office drinking tea. She walked in with a heavy face, and the teachers quickly returned to their own seats. Chen Shi also put down the teacup, feeling bored and preparing to take her lesson plan to class. However, Shen Hui directly blocked her seat and slapped a stack of lesson plans on her desk aggressively. Apologize. Chen Shi raised her head inexplicably. Are you crazy? Why should I apologize to you? I heard everything you said just now. Shen Hui's face was stern. She had better facial features than Chen Shi, but she didn't know how to dress up and always pulled her hair back meticulously. Chen Shi had thus stolen the limelight as the most beautiful teacher. At this moment, her anger caused her rigid and strong aura to become even more obvious. A look of jealousy flashed through Chen Shi's eyes, and she raised her chin indifferently. So what if you heard? Did I say anything wrong? Qiao Nian has always obtained average grades in the previous school, but she got into your class with a perfect score when she transferred over. Do you dare say that you don't have any doubts inside? As for Chen Yuan, he didn't even finish the second semester of high school and has to catch up with the third year's contents. Isn't he just here to pull your leg? Shen Hui glared at her fiercely, not losing out on the argument. That's my class's business. It has nothing to do with you. Why did you have to slander my students and my class behind my back? I was just wondering. Teacher Chen, you claim that Class A is a trash class, but why is it that Class B loses to us every single year? The form teachers of the top classes arguing made the other form teachers afraid to speak up. This was not a joke. Such a fight among the powerful had nothing to do with their classes. Chen Shi was speechless for a moment, and she endured it for a long time before standing up. Since you said that, then let's take a gamble. The exam is coming soon. If my class surpasses yours this time, you'll have to give us the title of the most outstanding class. Okay. Shen Hui agreed very readily. She also didn't like Qiao Nian, who had parachuted into her class out of nowhere. Neither did she like Chen Yuan, who had been suspended from school. However, they were both students in her class, and she couldn't allow outsiders to scold them and call them trash. What if you lose? Lose? Chen Shi sneered. Teacher Shen, our class isn't far from yours every year. Now that you have 2 students pulling down the average, I would be too embarrassed to lose. I don't even know how to lose at this point. Shen Hui had never liked those glib-tongued people. Since Chen Shi refused to answer, she directly said, if you lose, you must publicly apologize to Qiao Nian and Chen Yuan in our class. And to me. Chen Shi felt like she had overestimated herself. Chen Yuan and Qiao Nian only came in out of recommendation, so she didn't think she would lose at all. Without hesitation, she immediately agreed. Okay, I'll do as you say. With that said, She picked up her materials and smirked mockingly at her. Teacher Shun, I'm waiting for you to give me the most outstanding class title. The quarrel between the two form teachers quickly spread throughout the school. In Class B, Zhao Jingwei was the first to receive the news. As soon as she heard about it, she ran to share the good news with Qiao Chun, as if she had just won the lottery. Chun Chun, Teacher Chun, and Class A's form teacher are fighting with each other. They bet that if our class loses in this time's exam, Teacher Chun will apologize to Class A. If Class A loses, then will be Class A in the future. Let's see what Qiao Nian can do now. While sorting out information, Qiao Chun smiled upon hearing this. It was indeed good news. She raised a slight smile and said gently, I hope we can win. Zhao Jingwei didn't even need to think about it. Class A has 2 people dragging the average down. We can definitely win. By the way, Chun Chun, are you planning to participate in the draft for the TV show? Looking at the various certificates of honor on Xiao Chen's desk, she said enviously, You're so lucky. Chun Chun, you can actually be interviewed on the same show as Jiangli. The Qiao family was rich, and after recommending Qiao Chun to ruin Xiao Weiman had spent even more money on her to obtain the title of the most beautiful Rennie candidate. Qiao Chun already had an online account, which she usually liked to share some delicious and fun stuff on, plus some carefully selected selfies with good angles. She was good-looking and had deliberately created the illusion of a positive and rich second generation, attracting many followers online. This time, the most beautiful candidate had been hyped up, and she had more or less become a mini internet celebrity. Some TV programs had even invited her because of her popularity. The program Xiao Chan was participating in was a talk show that mainly focused on current hotspots. It was said that Jiangli would come to the issue too. Jiangli was the dream of thousands of young girls. For 3 consecutive years, he had been ranked first on the list of the most wanted men to marry in the entertainment industry. He was groundbreaking handsome, and his personality was incredibly warm and manly, making many girls swoon over him. Zhao Jingwei was also Jiang Li's diehard fan and had his posters pasted everywhere at home. She almost chased after every one of his trips. Since you're participating in the same show, you could get close to Jiangli, right? She glanced at Qiao Chun anxiously and said sourly. Brother said before that he likes the girl next door vibes and especially wants a good-looking, obedient, and gentle sister. Chun Chun, you're exactly his ideal type. What if he falls in love with you at first sight? You can't forget about Senior Fu Ge. Jiangli. No matter how good Jiangli was, he was still just a celebrity, nowhere as good as Brother Fu Ji's family background. However, if the top celebrity was in love with her and treated her as a sister, she could really show off. Qiao Chun thought about the scene, lowered her eyelids, and gathered the arrogance in her eyes. Don't worry. If I have the chance, I'll ask him for an autograph, she comforted gently. Zhao Jingwei no longer felt depressed and jumped up in joy. Really? Really? She grabbed Xiao Chen's hand as if she had already obtained the autograph. Jiangli likes your vibe. You'll definitely get it. At the same time, Class A also received the news. Compared to the euphoria in Class B, the atmosphere in Class A was downturned and terrible. Only Qiao Nian didn't seem to notice it. She had slept late yesterday, finishing the things she had promised Wei Lu. It was already 3 p.m., and she had been in school ever since 7 a.m. Her eyes were bloodshot from lack of sleep. Everyone heard about the 2 form teachers' bets in the morning, and few were in the mood to study seriously. Shun Qingqing, the class representative for language, tapped the table as she saw that nobody was studying. She said blankly, What are you guys doing? Nobody's revising? What about the test next week? Do you guys want to lose the bet? Someone talked back at her. Nobody wants to lose, but someone in our class is dragging us down. Shun Qingqing didn't wish for her desk mate to be bullied by others. She immediately stood up for her and said, Who are you referring to? Make yourself clear. Jiang Tingting didn't back down. Who else can it be if not Xiao Nian? If it wasn't for her, Teacher Shun wouldn't have placed a bet with Teacher Chun. Is Class B targeting Qiao Nian? No, Class B is targeting the whole of our Class A. Shun Qingqing placed both her hands on the podium as her face turned red. At this point, Liang Bowen stood up and slammed his book against the desk while scanning the class. He kept his gaze on the girl who was talking back at Shun Qingqing, then said, "What's the fuss? Are we all planning to lose? Don't you forget, we're all from Class A. We're a whole entity. We win together and get embarrassed together. Now, who doesn't want to win?" The moment he asked that, everyone in Class A hung their heads low. Nobody was making noise anymore. Even Jiang Tingting kept her head down guiltily. She wanted to win too. Seeing that the class had quieted down and that everyone was getting back their focus to study, he turned towards Qiao Nian. "Qiao Nian, you just transferred over, so it's normal that nobody knows what your grades are like. You've seen our class's examination results from before. How high do you think you rank? It's not that we don't have faith in you. We're all from the same class. Just give us a number so we know what to expect. Spend more time revising on all that you need to over the next few days. We'll try to pull up your grades and Chen Yuan's." Chen Yuan wasn't in school yet. When Chen Yuan arrived, he would talk to him about it privately. Everyone had seen Chen Yuan's results in the past before, so it wasn't a huge worry. The critical point was Qiao Nian. The score that Qiao Nian could manage to attain was very important. Qiao Nian had been leaning against the wall as she played some cell phone games. She now looked up at him after she heard what he said to her. She hadn't thought about how many marks she was aiming for. In the past, she used to just try to achieve an average score. That way, she could avoid being the center of attention. It was too much trouble, but now, it seemed like that wouldn't work. Seeing that there was no reply from Qiao Nian, Liang Bowen thought that her results were really far from ideal. But he thought about her friendship with Shun Qingqing and said with encouragement rather than reproach, "It's all right if you can't do well. Shun Qingqing, I, and the rest of the class will help you out. Teacher Shun has really gone all out for us this time. We can't let her down." Qiao Nian narrowed her eyes as she scanned the dozens of eyes looking back at her expectantly. She felt responsibility on her shoulders for the first time and opened her blank notebook. After a short moment, she said casually, "Make that first place, then." Liang Bowen was speechless. So was Shun Qingqing. The entire class, it was quiet. "Big boss, are you sleep-talking?" Liang Bowen was the first to react to her response. He said to her seriously, but a little more quietly, "Qiao Nian, I'm talking to you seriously." Her cell phone vibrated. "Wei Lu 100 feet tall. Qiao Nian, I'm talking to you seriously." Her eyes twitched. If it wasn't for the fact that Liang Bowen and Wei Lu did not know each other, she would have thought they were performing an act. They said the exact same thing. Qiao Nian typed on her cell phone, her mind preoccupied with the things she assigned Wei Lu to check out. She said distractedly, "I'm also talking to you seriously. First place. B** starred." Liang Bowen had never wanted to use this word on anyone until now. The thing was, the first place of class, it was usually also the first place in the entire first high school, one that was recognized in the district rankings. Did Qiao Nian know what was going on or not? Nobody in Class A took Qiao Nian seriously. Even Liang Bowen and Shun Qingqing thought that she was too embarrassed to tell the truth because her grades were too poor. The rest of them got to work immediately. They had to score a few more points in order to pull the class average up for Qiao Nian. The time had come for the examination. The Class A students got together and went to look for the examination venue. Qiao Nian took a look at her venue number as well. OL start equals 1102. She thought it was far away, but it was just next door in Class B. I'm in 1204, and Liang Bowen and the rest are in 1605. Qiao Nian, where's your venue? Shun Qingqing walked out of the classroom with her as they walked past Class B. She asked Qiao Nian as she seemed rather nonchalant, having received a slip of paper which showed her venue. Qiao Nian crushed the paper and tossed it into the bin, then said a little mockingly, 1102, first seat. Shun Qingqing was stunned. Wasn't that in the first row of Class B? Her heart sank. She had prepared some cheat sheets for Qiao Nian and planned to give them to her. But it seemed like it wasn't going to be of use anymore. At this point, the students of Class B were also getting their belongings together and heading toward their examination venues. Xiao Chun left the classroom with the company of Zhao Jingwei and all the other people who looked up to her. Zhao Jingwei glanced at Qiao Nian and immediately said in her shrill voice, let's see. Who's this over here? Isn't it Qiao Nian, the one who scored full marks for the entrance paper? I heard that you want to achieve first place in this examination. Class A is already in shambles, and now they're expecting someone who got in through the back door to be in the first place. Standing beside Qiao Nian, Shun Qingqing immediately stood forward and said with a red face, Zhao Jingwei, you'd better stop spouting nonsense. I'm speaking the truth. How is that nonsense? With this deadweight around, Class A will have to surrender the most outstanding class title to us. Zhao Jingwei tipped her chin upwards, her posture domineering and arrogant. She was so loud that the Class A students walking past got mad as well. They were about to rebut her. Qiao Nian squinted, the look in her eyes overtaken by a terrifying wildness. She reached out and grabbed Shun Qingqing, who was close to starting a fight with them. Qiao Nian then looked at Zhao Jingwei coldly, but a little teasingly. I will wait for you to come and get it. Get what? The most outstanding class title. Zhao Jingwei was confident and smug, but with Qiao Nian's calm reply, she simply looked like an unreasonable shrew. She couldn't take it lying down, but at this point, Qiao Chen grabbed hold of her and said gently, Enough, Jingwei. The examination is starting. Have you found your venue yet? Let's head there first. Zhao Jingwei was still mad and spat at Qiao Nian and the rest of class. Count yourselves lucky. She then hooked arms with Qiao Chun and kept her nose high. Chun, let's go. Qiao Chun smiled gently when she walked past Qiao Nian and the rest. She said softly, All the best, sister. I believe you can do it. I'll be waiting to hear your results. Only after the two of them had left did Shun Qingqing reveal how disgusted she felt. What does that Xiao Chen mean? Why do I feel like she's even more disgusting than Zhao Jingwei? It's as if she believes that you'll not do well. She claims that she believes in you. But if that's the case, she could have said all the best and left it at that. Why did she have to talk about waiting for your results? It was evident that she was waiting to laugh at Qiao Nian. The preparation bell was about to ring, so Shun Qingqing didn't really have much time to say all that she wanted to say anymore. She patted Qiao Nian on the shoulder and tried to squeeze an encouraging smile. Qiao Nian, don't feel too stressed. No matter how you do, nobody's going to blame you. Just do your paper as you usually would. Qiao Nian casually said, I'll try my best. Chen Yuan, the last to leave the classroom, heard Shun Qingqing's words of encouragement to Qiao Nian. His lips twitched a little, and he tugged Shun Qingqing's sleeve. Let's go and look for our own venues. She doesn't need you to worry for her. You might as well worry about yourself instead. Did Qiao Nian really need these ordinary high school students to worry for her? Upon entering Class B, Qiao Nian realized that she was the only Class A student around. She didn't know anybody else at all. Everyone looked at her the moment she entered, eyes full of curiosity and some with mockery. Qiao Nian didn't bother looking at anyone. She prepared her 2B pencil and a liquid gel pen, placed them on the desk, and then took a seat. A while later, the invigilator arrived with the papers. First High School took the third-year examinations very seriously. To prevent cheating, each class was assigned 2 invigilators. What a coincidence! The invigilator for this classroom were Chan Shi and another teacher she did not recognize. The whole examination would be completed in a day, with a morning paper and an afternoon paper. The one in the morning was mathematics, the subject most dreaded by students. The other invigilator was responsible for checking the students' candidate number against their seating position. Chun-Shi stood in front of the class and scanned the students condescendingly, before landing her gaze on Qiao Nian and saying, All of you are first high school students, and you should know the examination rules and regulations without me saying more. I will just briefly emphasize once more, so listen carefully. Cheating is not tolerated. Anyone found cheating will be banned from the examination, and the results will be nullified. Also, my personal principle goes like this. If I find anyone cheating, I will report it to the school at once. Expulsion is possible for serious cases. Are you clear? Yes, we are. The students in venue 1102 responded. Qiao Nian couldn't be bothered with her. Instead, she was busy checking on her 2B pencil. Those eyes were dark, pure, and beautiful, but they just were not looking in Chun-Shi's direction. Chun-Shi pursed her lips and kept her gaze. She then tore the envelope holding the papers and said, "All right, we will start distributing the papers now." The atmosphere was tense. Besides the sounds of writing and erasing, it was practically silent. Chun-Shi grabbed a chair and took a seat right in front of the first row once the examination began. She kept her eyes on Qiao Nian and Qiao Nian only. Given the way she invigilated, cheating surely would not escape her eyes. Hell, if Qiao Nian even made an odd move, she would notice it right away and catch her for cheating. But Qiao Nian didn't look anywhere outside her paper since the beginning of the examination. She just flipped through the pages and answered the questions. Qiao Nian shaded the answers on the answer sheet with much ease. It was as if the questions that Chun-Shi had scoured all over were a piece of cake for her. Soon, Qiao Nian was done shading all of the multiple-choice questions. She went on to the short-answer questions, then the open-ended questions. Qiao Nian wrote very quickly and practically did not use her rough paper for any drafts at all. In less than an hour, she had completed the paper. Chun-Shi thought that she would check through her answers, but to her surprise, Qiao Nian flipped the paper and kept it face down, then put it aside. She then yawned and rested her head on the table, taking a nap. She couldn't help but chuckle as she witnessed this scene. It was as if she had already won. For the next few papers, Qiao Nian acted the same way. She was the first to complete the paper and would put it aside without even checking. Then she would sleep. In the blink of an eye, the 4 papers were over. The sun was already beginning to set. Qiao Nian packed her belongings and then casually bade her farewell to Shin Qingqing and a few classmates. Then, she leisurely walked out of the school gate. Her cell phone had been turned off the entire day. The moment she turned it on now, she saw 10 notifications. There were missed calls, text messages. Qiao Nian narrowed her eyes as she looked at one of the missed calls, which was from the hospital. This was her personal cell phone, and she only gave this cell phone number to people she was very close to. But she remembered putting this number down at the hospital as an emergency contact for Uncle Chun. Her heart sank. Had something happened to Uncle Chun? After school, many parents drove over to pick up their children after getting off work. The gates of First High School were blocked by various cars. Frowning, Qiao Nian took out her earphone from her bag, walked through the crowd, and was about to call the hospital. Out of the corner of her eye, she saw a black Phaeton parked in an inconspicuous corner across the road. Yuan leaned back lazily on the other side, his handsome face illuminated under the streetlights. His eyes were deep, and a cigarette hung from his thin and gorgeous lips. His black shirt sleeves were rolled up to reveal the crimson prayer beads on his wrist. Though he was parked far away, his appearance stood out from the crowd and was very alluring. Qiao Nian didn't want to walk over. However, he seemed to sense that she had come out and raised his head to look in her direction, coincidentally meeting her gaze. Qiao Nian. Yuan didn't expect her to come out so fast and to see him smoking. Frowning, he quickly threw away the cigarette and stamped it out with his foot. Then, he turned and said to Gu-san, "Didn't you say that the exam would take at least half an hour?" "Yes, it usually does." "Then, why is Qiao Nian out already?" And she had even seen him smoking. Rubbing his forehead, Yuan was too lazy to scold him. He raised his hand and greeted the girl on the opposite side. The road wasn't very wide, and Qiao Nian arrived within a few steps. She just reached the car when she heard the man's low and sultry voice say, "Uncle Chun met with an accident." Qiao Nian's heart jumped, and her face changed slightly. Taking off her earphones, she stared at him with black, cold, and ruthless eyes, like a wolf whose bottom line had been stepped on. "What happened?" Her voice was incredibly hoarse. Upon seeing her shoulders and back tense up, Yuan knew that she was far from being as calm as she seemed on the surface. He turned and opened the car door, inviting her in. "I'll tell you on the road. Get in the car first." Along the way, Yuan briefly explained the incident to her. In fact, it was very simple. In the afternoon, Uncle Chun suddenly felt nauseous and fainted for a while. The doctor performed an emergency examination and found that he had a tumor in his brain, which needed immediate surgery. However, this kind of craniotomy required quite a number of doctors. Rao City was only a small city, and the level of medical technology was far from Beijing's. Suddenly looking for an expert to perform a craniotomy on Uncle Chun was like trying to reach the sky. Before the car arrived at the hospital, Yi Wangchuan glanced at her pale face. His fingers quickly turned the beads on his wrist, and he softly comforted her. I've already contacted the experts from Beijing's hospital. They'll be here soon, so don't worry. She had always known that Uncle Chun wasn't in good health, and he was paralyzed in bed all year round. Hence, she had asked the doctors to do a comprehensive physical examination on him every month, but she didn't expect them to encounter a brain tumor in him. Qiao Nian's face turned pale, and she leaned backward before shutting her eyes. Her black eyelashes were distinct, her lips were drawn into a straight line, and her hands were clenched into fists. It was the first time Yi Wangchuan saw her so fragile and anxious, afraid that her hand would bleed from her tight grip. He put his big hand on the back of hers. As if he was comforting a child, he whispered and coaxed her. Nian Nian, trust me. Uncle Chun will definitely be fine. The car quickly stopped at the hospital, and Qiao Nian almost ran up to the 6th floor. From a distance, she heard Aunt Chen's depressed cry and the voices of doctors discussing together. The patient has fallen into a severe coma. What can we do? We can't wait for the expert from Beijing to come over. So why don't we directly go to the higher-level hospital? No, he can't be moved anymore in this condition. He can only operate as soon as possible. But who will do it? The scene was deadly quiet. The brain surgeons in Rao City were gathered here, but no one dared to come forward and say that they were confident. If it was another person today, they might not have been under such pressure and would have agreed to do the surgery. After all, there were successes and failures in operations. However, despite looking ordinary, this patient seemed to have a powerful support, and no one dared to bear such a responsibility. Aunt Chun waited with tears in her eyes for a full minute, but not one doctor volunteered to do the surgery. Her heart sank, and just when she was about to cry desperately, she heard a familiar voice from the end of the corridor. Me! Everyone turned around to see an 18-year-old girl running towards them. She was wearing a t-shirt, smoky gray jeans, and a pair of small leather boots that revealed her straight and well-proportioned legs. She had probably just rushed over, as the fine sweat on her forehead hadn't been wiped off yet, and she was panting with her hands on her knees, her eyes burning like a wildfire. Let me. Aunt Chin stared at her in a daze, her mouth hanging open. Forgetting to wipe the tears on her sallow face, she exclaimed in surprise, Nian Nian. Behind her, Gu San was also shocked. He poked his head out, confused as to what was going on. He whispered to the man beside him, Master Wang, what's Miss Qiao doing? Was she fooling around? It didn't seem like it. Qiao Nian didn't seem like the kind to fool around. Although she was young, she was much calmer than her brother, young Master Jiang. She had no reason to mess around under such circumstances. But why did it sound like she was fooling around? She's just a high school girl. How could she possibly know medical skills? Craniotomy isn't the same as cutting open a watermelon. Look at her confidence. Isn't she just messing around? Yi Wangchuan raised an eyebrow, closing his eyes and letting a chuckle escape from his thin and gorgeous mouth. Interesting. He thought that Qiao Nian just looked different from ordinary girls, but now it seemed he hadn't mistaken her. She was indeed different. Qiao Nian was just like a mystery. When a female high school student told the group of brain surgeons in the top 3 hospitals that she would do the operation, everyone was stunned. Yuan, known as the most beautiful doctor in the brain surgery department, took the lead to break the silence. Sneering, she raised her chin proudly and sized her up. You? Some of our doctors aren't even confident, but you, a high school student, think you can do it? What if the patient dies? Are you going to take responsibility? Qiao Nian stepped on the shadow of the corridor lights, wild and sassy. Yes, I'll take responsibility. Yuan raised her thin eyebrow, feeling a little annoyed. She said with disgust, Haha, who are you kidding? Take responsibility? Who are you to do that? Treating illness and saving people isn't like playing house, and you have to be capable first before you want to be a hero. The hospital doesn't even dare to be responsible for this operation, but you can't afford to. What if I take responsibility for it with my life? Qiao Nian stood still in front of them, her hands in her pocket, her forehead still wet with sweat. She was still panting a little as she spoke, but arrogance and confidence exuded from her attitude. If I fail the operation, I'll pay for it with my life. Aunt Chin covered her mouth, shaking her head wildly and preventing her from continuing. Don't talk nonsense. What do you mean? You're still young. Your uncle isn't worth it. We're not worthy enough for you to bet your life on it. Qiao Nian's eyes were very beautiful, and their shape was peach-like, with the tails raised like a phoenix. It made her look a little disobedient, and with her eyebrows raised at the moment, the bulge of her brow bone looked even more rebellious. She was incredibly wild. She helped Aunt Chen sit down on a chair. Her eyebrows and eyelashes drooped, forming a shadow under her eyes. She said softly, "You and Uncle Chun are worthy to me. Don't worry, I won't let Uncle Chun die." Red-eyed, Aunt Chen grabbed her hand, choking and speechless. She didn't know what else to say except to repeat the words, "Nian Nian, we're not worth it. We didn't do anything for you." Qiao Nian straightened her back and reached out to wipe away her tears. "Don't cry." After coaxing her, she turned with her hands behind her back, her eyes wild and determined. It's unrealistic to transfer to another hospital and continue to wait. We don't have a second choice now, so let me give it a try. This was a matter of life and death, so how could a layman high school student give it a try? Just as Lu Yuan was about to speak, the director of brain surgery suddenly stopped her and said, "Let's give her a try." Director Lu Yuan thought he was crazy. Was he crazy? Brain surgery was the most difficult of surgical operations. Many surgeons might not dare to perform craniotomy even after 10 years of practice. This patient's situation was extremely complicated, and apart from a 3-centimeter-long tumor in his brain, he had been paralyzed in bed for many years, and his health couldn't be worse. How could they let a high school student operate on this kind of patient? She felt like she must be dreaming. The director of the brain surgery department was extremely firm, seeing the fanatic light exuding from Qiao Nian's gaze. He pressed Lu Yuan's shoulders and firmly said, "None of us can do the operation, but I can't wait for the Beijing experts to arrive, either." His gaze fell on the girl not far away. "If it's her, we might have a chance." He had once seen her saving someone, and he had even felt ashamed of his skills after seeing her skillful medical techniques. Lu Yuan, "I'll take responsibility if anything happens." The director had been in the industry for more than 30 years and was ranked in the province for his achievements in brain surgery. If even he didn't have confidence for this surgery, how could he be so sure about an outsider? And a female high school student? What was this girl's origin? Since the director had already spoken, even if the other doctors were skeptical of Qiao Nian, they still busied themselves preparing for the surgery. Goosen watched as everyone started busying themselves in an orderly manner, and Qiao Nian followed the nurse to change into a surgical gown. He finally closed his hanging mouth and turned to Yu Wangchuan with blank eyes. "Master Wang, Miss Qiao is really going to operate on that man? What if something happens?" She was too daring. Yu Wangchuan remained silent and quickly fiddled with the Buddhist beads on his lower wrist. "Call the Beijing airport. Tell them that I want them to arrange a plane for their medical staff. I want the fastest speed. It's best to skip the security checks." Goosen looked up in surprise, but didn't see the slightest hint of insincerity in his eyes. Realizing that he wasn't joking, his heart sank. It was okay for Master Wang to invite an expert in brain surgery over from Beijing since there wouldn't be much movement. However, letting the airport arrange special planes and take privileges such as omitting the security check was a big deal, and many people in Beijing would certainly divert their attention to Rao City. But he never questioned Yi Wangchuan's decisions, and he simply nodded solemnly. "I'll do it right away." He quickly walked away to call the relevant parties. Yi Wangchuan walked through the noisy corridor with his hands in his pockets and stopped in front of the crying, sallow-faced middle-aged woman. He bent over and patted her on the back, comforting her softly. Aunt Chun, don't worry. Uncle Chun will be fine. Looking up, Aunt Chun saw a young man through the tears in her eyes. For some reason, her turbulent heart gradually calmed down. It was as if this man whom she had only seen once really had the ability to pull her man back from the gates of death. Uncle Chun had fallen into a severe coma and had very unstable vital signs. He might stop breathing at any time because of the tumor in his brain. Thus, the operation was scheduled very soon. Qiao Nian put on the sterile surgical gown, pursed her lips, and stared resolutely ahead. She entered the operation room, surrounded by several brain surgeons. The operating room lit up with a red light. Luohe Yuan also came in with a large group of troops. She was completely covered in a surgical gown and stood with a group of brain surgery doctors. Qiao Nian could see the doubts in their eyes through the protective cover, but she didn't care and quickly put on the surgical gloves. Weak people like to ride on others' coattails and question those they were unfamiliar with. Those who had seen the vast world outside knew how big the world was. Not having witnessed something before didn't mean it was unreasonable. At this time, the head neurologist came over, ignoring his colleague sitting on the sideline. He directly asked Qiao Nian, "Do you want me to help?" "Yes, please. Hand me the instruments beside me." "Okay, I'll cooperate with you. Just tell me what you need." The head neurologist didn't feel like there was anything wrong with being second to a female high school student. It was reasonable to him. The other neurologists exchanged glances, all thinking the same thing. The head neurologist is crazy. More than crazy, his behavior had completely stunned everyone, and they couldn't understand what he was doing at all. Not only had he agreed to the absurd request of a female high school student, but he had also assumed that she was really an expert. Wasn't Qiao Nian just a high school student who hadn't grown up yet? She hadn't graduated from college, but he had been the chief doctor of a tertiary hospital for decades. Why would he act as a second on the operating table? Luohe Yuan and the others couldn't comprehend his actions. They followed them to the operating table with suspicion, reluctant to lend a helping hand. Qiao Nian concentrated on the operating table and first checked Uncle Chen's condition, her eyes darkening. The brain tumor had compressed the blood vessels, and his chronic anemia had led to malnutrition. His internal organs weren't well, and he wasn't ill, but because he had been lying on the hospital bed all year round without exercising, hematopoiesis of the heart was extremely poor, and he had some minor liver problems. With his current situation, he had his two legs hanging on the edge of the gates of death. The reason why he hadn't died, yet probably had something to do with the meat Ganoderma. Otherwise, the hospital would be notifying his sudden death instead of his critical illness. Curved vascular clamp. Someone passed the instrument to Qiao Nian, and she used the forceps to clamp the blood vessel rupture, cutting off the tumor in the brain. Her movements were smooth and without any unnecessary movements. Watching her undergo an operation was like watching a perfect performance. The neurologist originally thought she was just messing around, and the head neurologist was playing along with her, but they now stared with widened eyes in fixation. What kind of joke was this? A female high school student was more skilled in craniotomy than the doctors in the top 3 hospitals, and she was even performing the operation at such a tricky angle. There was no mention in the book that a craniotomy could be performed at that location, but with careful consideration, that location was actually more accurate than the common craniotomy positions that they had learned, as it caused the least harm to the patient. Tissue shears. Qiao Nian's voice was incredibly hoarse. Today, she had a highly challenging exam and an operation, and she hadn't drunk a sip of water all day. The people watching her intently in the operation room didn't think of wiping her sweat or giving her water. Uncle Chen's condition was too bad, and even if she tried to feed him a small pill before the operation, his heartbeat continued dropping. "Give me the surgical forceps." The head neurologist burst into fanatical light, chasing Qiao Nian's every move during the operation. Luohe Yuan exclaimed, watching Qiao Nian remove the tumor attached to the meninges, intact. How was she a high school student? This highly challenging surgical technique was unheard of. The sweat from Qiao Nian's forehead dripped down her chin. She took out the tumor with a pair of tweezers and placed it on a plate, then prepared for the next suture. The difficulty of suturing was no less than the difficulty of removing the tumor. A slight deviation might cause the operation to fail and the patient to die. Outside the operation room, Gusen had already answered several calls and was continuously reporting the progress of the Beijing experts to Yuan. Yuan didn't seem worried about Miss Qiao and continued comforting Aunt Shun from time to time. During the phone call, he heard that all hospitals were talking about the high school student's surgery, and even the two nurses passing by were discussing if the brain surgeon was crazy. Gusen felt distressed. Seeing that it was dark outside and there was no movement in the operating room, he leaned into the man's ear with a worried expression and whispered, "Master Wang, it has been 4 hours, and Miss Qiao is still inside. Miss Jiang is still in Rao City. She's a high-achieving student in the medicine department. Should I pick her up? She might be able to help." It wasn't that he didn't believe in Qiao Nian, but she was too young. Although Miss Jiang was also involved in the entertainment industry during college, she was smart and had good grades. As a student in the medicine department of Tsinghua University, she was better than Miss Qiao no matter what. "I believe in her." Leaning against the wall, Yuan's tall and slender body looked like a male model, but his whole body revealed an unpleasant aura. Even if his eyebrows were lazily hanging down, it still gave a sense of threat like a lion dozing off. Even if the lion was asleep, would you dare to touch the lion's ass? Gusen looked indescribable and couldn't hold back anymore. "Master Wang, what if? I'm not cursing Miss Qiao, but what if she really fails? Wouldn't it be better to have someone replace Miss Qiao then?" Yuan glanced at him a little lazily, and he said indifferently, "You mean Jiang Xian is better than the 30-year-old doctor in a tertiary hospital?" Gusen felt slapped in the face, and he awkwardly rubbed his nose. "I didn't mean that. Miss Jiang was more powerful than Miss Qiao, no matter what." He had a good relationship with Qiao Nian and only thought about this without saying it out loud. Yuan changed his posture and lowered his eyes to play with the Buddha beads on his wrist. His expression was faint and very tough. "Even if she fails, she still has me, doesn't she?" Gusen was speechless. What the F***CK? Was Master Wang putting Miss Qiao into his circle of protection? As they talked, the lights in the operating room suddenly went out, changing from red to green. The family members sitting in the corridor stood up and ran inside. Chun Yuan grabbed the first doctor who came out, afraid of hearing bad news. His face turned blue out of anxiety. "Doctor, how is my father?" "Master Wang, the doctor is out." Gusen also noticed the commotion and felt hopeful. "I wonder if the operation was successful." It would take a while more for the experts from Beijing to arrive. If Miss Qiao really failed this time, then Master Wang had to clean up the mess. Gusen always thought that Qiao Nian was a good girl, sensible and worry-free. But at this moment, he couldn't help but resent her for being too willful in this matter. Yuan's eyes deepened, and he put his hands in his pocket. His handsome face was expressionless, but it was much calmer than Gusen's. "Let's go over." Was Master Wang really not anxious? Gusen saw that he completely believed in Qiao Nian and followed after him, feeling anxious. The head neurologist took off his surgical mask. His shirt under the surgical gown was completely soaked, but it wasn't just that he was tired. He was simply too excited and agitated to be able to witness the state-of-the-art skills as a doctor. He couldn't stop smiling. "Success. The surgery is a huge success. I believe that even the greatest specialist from Beijing wouldn't have been able to pull it off so well." Gusen was confused. What? A success? Miss Qiao had successfully operated on Uncle Chun, and even won the praises of the head neurologist, saying that even a specialist from Beijing might not have been capable of this. This was incredible. What exactly is Miss Qiao's past? Since when did she have a medical background? Gusen turned around to look at him and asked, "Master Wang, did you actually know about this?" Yuan smiled as he lowered his gaze to hide his dark and deep eyes. He did not seem surprised. "I don't know." Gusen was speechless. He didn't know, but he was so confident in Miss Qiao just now, asserting that she surely could do it. "That's not possible. Miss Qiao must have told you beforehand." "Huh. Yi Wanchuan's eyes were deep and distant, and he sounded like he knew Qiao Nian very well. She cares about Uncle Chen's condition way more than you do. If you aren't willing to take it lightly, she definitely wouldn't be making this decision without full confidence in herself. If she says she can, that surely means that she's over 80% sure of the success. Otherwise, she would rather have waited for help to come. Even so, he hadn't expected Qiao Nian to be this good, so much so that an expert couldn't stop praising her. Yi Wanchuan had no idea why, but he felt pride rise inside him. It felt better than being complimented himself. The head neurologist said, "The patient is out of the woods now. He doesn't even have to be warded in the ICU. He will be transferred to a high-dependency ward. And if his condition stabilizes in the next few days, he can move into a normal ward then." Chen Yuan and Aunt Chun were delighted and heaved a sigh of relief. They couldn't stop thanking the doctor. "Thank you, doctor. Thank you, everyone." Then, they followed the nurses to the high-dependency ward. Neurologist, Yuan, and the rest came out from the operating theater as well. Their expressions resembled Gu San's. The difference, however, was that they witnessed the surgery procedure by Qiao Nian with their own eyes, so they appeared more awed and also shocked. Yuan had the strangest expression amongst them. Even though nobody noticed her now, nor did they remember what she'd said previously, her face was warm and red. It was as if she was stepping on nails. She simply could not bear to stand around here any longer. She hurriedly said to her colleague, "I'm not feeling well. I'll go back first." "Sure, drink more warm water." She was a renowned belle among the doctors in this city, and male doctors were usually all over her. But Yuan wasn't in the mood to be proud now. She quietly took her leave and avoided everyone. "Master Wang, Miss Qiao is out," Gu San said quietly. Yi Wanchuan locked his gaze on the last girl to exit from the operating theater. Qiao Nian took her surgical gown off and tossed it into the bin. She was exhausted and could barely lift her arms. Then, she felt a shadow loom over her. Who was that? Qiao Nian was beat, and she wasn't in a good mood. She furrowed her brows impatiently. Uncle Chen's surgery was extremely successful. Aunt Chun and the rest have headed there. Qiao Nian looked up and saw Yi Wanchuan. She was immune to his looks, having seen his face every day. She looked up tiredly and said weakly, "I know. She was the one who saved him." She knew better than anyone else how successful the surgery was. Uncle Chen's life was no longer in danger, but his current condition wasn't too optimistic yet. She still needed something. Once she got hold of it, she would be able to set his bone right, and he would then stand like a normal person again. But the thing she needed was rare and hard to obtain. She probably needed the Red Alliance's help. Qiao Nian was completely drained, and even raising an arm was too much to ask of her. But she was still busy thinking about finding the item. All of a sudden, she felt her feet leave the ground. She was picked up horizontally. The distinct masculine scent hit Qiao Nian, and her instinct was to avoid it. She struggled to be let down. "What are you doing? Put me down." She thought that she still had the condition of the past, such that she would break out in rashes on her neck and elbows whenever someone of the opposite gender came into direct contact with her. But when she looked down at her arms, she realized that they were still fair and clear. There was no trace of a single rash. None at all. How did this happen? Qiao Nian stopped struggling for a moment as she tried to figure it out with her already exhausted mind. That wasn't possible. In the past, she would have rashes whenever a guy touched her or even come too close. It happened even with Wei Lu, but there were exceptions. Qiao Nian recalled Jiang Li and the Jiang family. She hadn't broken out in rashes when they touched her, but that was likely because they were related to her by blood. What about him? This condition had bothered Qiao Nian for many years and was one she could not treat herself of. She had gone to several dermatologists, but they said that this was not a skin problem per se, rather. Her rashes were a manifestation of her psychological aversion to males. That was why she had to take medication to control her emotions. Yi Wanchuan was the only adult male unrelated to her by blood who did not trigger her allergic reaction upon touching her. This had happened when they were by the bridge the previous time, but she thought it was just a fluke. But if that was the case, how did she explain this instance? Qiao Nian took a deep breath and her eyes went dark. But it was just a few seconds of emotional shift on her part, and Yi Wangchuan did not notice it. He simply held her waist tightly and closer to his body. He smiled and said in the same low, soothing, and captivating voice, "Don't move about. I'll carry you to kitchen's room so you could take a nap." Qiao Nian was speechless. His bedroom is big and the bed isn't too bad. His grandfather had it customized for him in Beijing. Have a rest. Gu Xin blushed as he followed behind them. He dared not even let out a fart. "Master Wang, you do know that little young master's bed is his most precious territory. Elder Yi had it specially customized for him, and he never allowed anyone on it. Little young master did like Miss Qiao, but what if he wasn't willing to let her have the bed?" He dared not even imagine the scenario. He felt that if it happened, little young master might just be kicked out of the room by Master Wang. Qiao Nian was simply too tired to fight him. She held onto his shirt and remained stiff, but quietly agreed. Her ears were burning up, and her heart was a little messy. It was only 2 stories between level 6 and level 8, so Yi Wangchuan took the stairs. They attracted many glances as he walked around with Qiao Nian in his arms. The man's facial features were outstanding, and his tailored pants were wrapped around his 2 long legs, emphasizing his impressive physique. The girl in his arms wasn't too bad herself. Just from the side profile, one could tell that she wasn't too fanciful, but she was definitely not a plain Jane. A handsome man and a beautiful woman would always be attractive, no matter the time and place. A few girls blushed as Yi Wangchuan passed by them. They whispered, "Wow, it's so romantic. This feels like a scene from a drama." And the man was so handsome. Did they just bump into actors shooting a film around here? Gu San heard it as well and turned to look at the people before him. TSK, Master Wang and Miss Qiao do seem pretty compatible. In the VIP room on the 8th floor, Yi Kitchen was curled up in bed like a kitten, eyeing a little jar on the pillow. He didn't even blink his eyes as he gazed at the jar, his lush lashes curled up beautifully. There was a white tablet in the little jar he cherished so dearly. He just looked at it with a sweet, silly expression the whole time. He would pick it up once in a while and take the little tablet out, but he wouldn't bear to eat it. Then, after looking at it for a while, he would put it back into the jar. He was counting down to when Qiao Nian would come again. It had been almost a full day, and she hadn't come yet. Yi Kitchen sat up with furrowed brows on his little face. He thought about his performance that day. Perhaps he wasn't obedient enough. His eyes dimmed a little as he picked up the jar. He felt worse by the minute as he thought about how it was probably his fault that Sister Qiao Nian did not want to come and see him. Then, the door opened. He turned around to see his uncle carrying Qiao Nian in. Yi Kitchen practically jumped off his bed as the look of self-reproach dispersed. His beautiful eyes lit up and he beamed widely, unable to contain his excitement. He called out, "Sister." Yi Wangchuan glanced at him and said quietly, not so loud. He said to the child, "She's tired, Chun Chun. Could you let her have your bed so she can sleep for a while?" Qiao Nian rubbed her temple as she struggled to get down. She said hoarsely, "No need, I don't need to sleep. Just let me rest on the couch there." Yi Wangchuan narrowed his eyes and did not respond. He was looking in Yi Kitchen's direction. She just finished a surgery. She had to stand for 4 straight hours. This was obviously meant for Yi Kitchen to hear. Gusen was standing at the door. Little young master wasn't willing to loan his bed? Little young master had always been very aware of his territory. Master Wang was asking too much of him. He peered inwards a little worriedly and was ready to prepare another ward for them. He thought he was right. But just after a moment's hesitation, Yi Kitchen said, "Sure." He then took his stuff and got off the bed, and even thoughtfully tidied his bed that he'd made a mess of previously. Yi Kitchen blushed a little as if he was shy as he stood by the bed, his hands wrung together. He said, "Sister, I didn't know you were coming." Had he known, he would have gotten his uncle to change the sheets and get the best pillow for her to rest comfortably on. Yi Kitchen seemed a little frustrated at himself. After some thought, he pouted and stuffed her his favorite plush rabbit. "This is my favorite when I sleep. It's very obedient, and it can protect sister." Yi Wangchuan knew about the plush rabbit. It was the stuffed toy that he had gotten for Yi Kitchen for his first birthday. Yi Kitchen usually kept it close to him and hardly shared it with anyone. It seemed like he really liked Qiao Nian. He bent over and placed her on the bed, then took off her shoes and socks. He pulled the blanket over her and said, "Have a nap here. We'll go back later." Qiao Nian was forced into bed and even had a blanket over her already. She looked up at him, slightly annoyed. Yi Wangchuan placed a hand on her forehead and closed her eyes. "Sleep. You need rest now, so don't think of anything. We'll talk when you've rested enough." His palm felt warm as it covered her eyes. All Qiao Nian could see was darkness. She suddenly had a feeling that she couldn't describe. It felt weird to her. Before she could put a nail on it, Yi Wangchuan removed his hand and held onto her hand. There was a certain grace in his movements as he said, "Let's go. Let her have a good rest." "All right." Yi Kitchen answered unwillingly. He didn't want to leave, but he followed Yi Wangchuan's orders as he understood that Qiao Nian was exhausted. Qiao Nian saw them out. However, as they were about to leave, he thought of something and asked, "All right, why didn't you tell me that you were medically trained?" Qiao Nian already anticipated that question before they were done with the surgery. Hence, she wasn't caught off guard. She answered his question calmly. "You didn't ask." Yi Wangchuan raised his eyebrows and smiled. This answer was so straightforward. It was her style. He didn't ask any further. He closed the door and said, "Sleep well, then." Qiao Nian thought that she wouldn't be able to sleep in a new place. However, she slept through the night. By the time she woke up, it was already 10 in the morning. The first lesson was conducted by Shenhui. Qiao Nian held up her head, feeling a bit wonky after sleeping for too long. After she got up, she saw that there were a set of clothes next to her bed along with her backpack. There was also a note. Qiao Nian picked up the note and read it. The beautifully written words on the card said, "I've told the school that you won't be attending today. Take a shower after you wake up and have a good rest." Even though the words looked regular, you could feel a sense of pride from them. It must have been Yi Wangchuan. He helped her to take time off school, after all. Qiao Nian thought about how he carried her outside of the operation room. Her emotions were roused. She immediately put down the note and took the clothes. She then went into the shower attached to the room and took a shower. She woke up from the cold shower. She got out after changing into a new set of clothes. However, Yi Wangchuan and the child were nowhere to be found. Qiao Nian sent him a text instead before taking her backpack and heading to school. The second lesson was done when she reached school. It was break time. Qiao Nian entered the classroom while carrying her backpack. Everyone fell silent when they saw her. Everyone stopped what they were doing and looked at her. What were they doing? Qiao Nian thought as she frowned. However, that didn't stop her. She only paused for a while before heading to her seat. She put her backpack down. Everyone unfroze and started to cheer uncontrollably. "Qiao Nian is here. Sister Nian is back." "Uh-huh. I thought she wouldn't be here today. Didn't someone say that she was on medical leave?" "Hee, great that she's here." Qiao Nian was speechless. "Sister Nian?" As she was about to pull out her chair to sit down, Shen Qingqing came over and held her hand with joy. She immediately asked, "Qiao Nian, do you know your results this time?" Qiao Nian was confused. She paused for a while as she thought. She didn't bother with the 40 marks composition section for the language paper. Hence, she should have gotten 560 marks. Before she answered, Shen Qingqing exclaimed to her smilingly as she tugged her clothes. 560. It's 560. You're the school's top scorer. The papers weren't released yet. They had only heard that the teachers marked the papers overnight because of Class B's form teacher's instruction. Hence, they were able to publish the results today. If Shen Qingqing knew that the reason why Qiao Nian lost 40 marks was that she was too lazy to write the composition, she would have gone crazy. Liang Bowen was leaning against the wall and holding onto a basketball. He didn't look like a nerd today. He looked like an athlete with a blue Nike sweatband on his forehead. He said, "Chen Yuan is in 12th place for the exams this time." The teachers from Class B were shocked when they saw the rankings. "Qiao Nian, you really did it. I thought you were joking when you said that you were going to be the top scorer. I never knew that you could do it." He couldn't wait for the apology from Class B. He walked over and patted Qiao Nian on the shoulder. Then, Qiao Nian sat down and smiled. Liang Bowen exclaimed, "Since Qiao Nian is here, I will treat everyone to ice cream for our victory this time. Let's head to the convenience store. Pick anyone you want." Everyone from Class A cheered and followed after him. Shen Qingqing wanted to go along as well. However, she noticed that Qiao Nian didn't move and was puzzled. She asked, "Nian Nian, are you not going?" Qiao Nian answered nonchalantly as she fished out her phone from the bag. "I don't feel like it." Shen Qingqing thought for a while and felt that Qiao Nian wasn't going because she was lazy. She then suggested smilingly, "I can bring one for you instead. What flavor do you want?" Even though she didn't like ice cream, Qiao Nian couldn't bear to reject her. She then answered reluctantly, "Orange, then." Shen Qingqing made a note in her mind and answered, "All right, wait for a while, please." At the convenience store in First High School, Xiao Chun remembered that she forgot her pen and headed back to get one. At this moment, she saw the students from Class A heading to the store. She frowned and asked, "What are they doing?" Zhao Jingwei came along with her. However, there was something on her mind, and she looked really unhappy. She frowned more when she saw the students from Class A heading into the convenience store cheerfully. She then said in envy, "They're obviously boasting. They were so disgraceful, as though they had never won before. A bunch of hooligans." Qiao Chun came at almost the same time as Qiao Nian because she had something on in the morning. Furthermore, the students from Class B didn't want to talk about their defeat. Hence, Qiao Chun didn't know that the results were out. She looked at Zhao Jingwei puzzledly and asked, "Boasting? What are they boasting about?" "The result from the recent exam are out. They performed better than us and are boasting about it," Zhao Jingwei said with jealousy. Why are they cheering, anyway?" Qiao Nian might have cheated. She was just from a normal high school that transferred in. How could she have gotten the top spot? Something must be wrong. Qiao Chun froze and almost dropped the thing in her hands. She exclaimed, "What did you say?" "Qiao Nian got the top spot." "That's right." She got even angrier when she talked about it. Everyone thought that Xin Yuan and Qiao Nian would have dragged Class A scores down. However, they performed really well in the exams. Zhao Jingwei saw that Qiao Chan was pale and thought she wasn't feeling well. She remembered their relationship and tried to console her. "Don't compare yourself to her. She just got lucky this time. She's nothing compared to you. She's from Luohe County. Her good results won't change it. Meanwhile, your parents are business owners and your boyfriend is from a powerful company. She can never compare to you. Stop cheapening yourself by comparing to her." Qiao Chen didn't feel great after hearing that Qiao Nian performed well in the exams. However, after hearing what Zhao Jingwei said, she understood everything. Why should she compare herself with Qiao Nian, anyway? They didn't belong in the same world. She was going to Beijing to grow in her career in the future. She was going to marry Fu Ge and be a part of the upper echelon of society. And everyone could tell Qiao Nian's future already. They were destined to have different lives. Furthermore, you didn't get to do the exams because of Rennie. If you had taken the exams, you might have beaten her. That was pushing things too far. Qiao Chun was only 50th place in the school. Qiao Nian was the top scorer this time. Qiao Chen held on to her hand as she smiled. She then pretended that it didn't matter and said softly, "Jingwei, don't be like that. I'm happy that her results were great. Come on, let's go back." Zhao Jingwei asked, "You no longer getting the pen?" Qiao Chun looked at the students from Class A crowding up the convenience store with a hint of contempt. She then said, "It's all right. I'll use yours for now." "All right, then." At the classroom, Qiao Nian was leaning on her chair with a cold look in her eyes. She opened a hidden software on her cell phone, just a simple red square with an S on it that wasn't obvious. However, everyone knew what the S meant. It was the Red Alliance, an alliance filled with hackers, sellers, and miners. The Red Alliance was involved in every business. However, it accepted jobs dependent on their mood. As they worked for both sides of the law, everyone knew about the Red Alliance. Qiao Nian opened the software and a pop-up chat came up. She entered her password. A notification appeared. "Sun is online." The group went silent for a while before everyone spoke. "Play with me, Miss Concubine." "Damn, my eyes are going bad, right?" "Boss is online." "Slim waist control. It's such a rare occasion." "Guan Yin, we must have been hacked. Go check it out." "Slim waist. Slim waist control. Slim waist control. How many times must I say, I'm Slim Waist Control. Not Slim Waist. Guanyin. Whatever. Just check if the software is hacked. Boss's account is definitely hacked. Slim Waist Control. Screw you. Qiao Nian smiled as she read their argument. She then typed something. Son, it's me. Play with me, Miss Concubine. Boss, is that really you? Hell must have frozen over. Why are you online? Son, help me look for this. Qiao Nian then uploaded a photo. Slim Waist Control. Is this a restricted item? It would be hard, as all the countries are very careful about it. Why are you looking for this? Qiao Nian looked down at her phone. She typed quickly. Son, I need it. Help me check where I can find it locally. I don't care about the price. I need it as soon as possible. Slim Waist Control. All right, I'm on it. It's not about the money. This is really hard to get. I'll ask around and get back to you. Son, okay. After Qiao Nian replied, she didn't join the conversation and closed the software. Then, something weird happened. The red software disappeared from her homepage when she exited it. It was as though it never existed. When she kept her phone back in her bag, Shen Qingqing came back with the ice cream. Qiao Nian took out a piece of gum and chewed on it slowly. She leaned against her chair as she thought about what happened yesterday. She looked like a gangster as she did so. Uncle Chin's spine problem could not be delayed any longer. She remembered that the person on the 8th floor yesterday was also having trouble walking with his left leg. She would be helping him too when she got the items. If it was effective for him, she would try to heal both of them together. At the same time, Yi Wanchuan returned to the hospital with Yi Kitchen with breakfast. However, when they entered the room, Qiao Nian and her items were missing. She even folded the quilt neatly before she left. Yi Kitchen was excited to come back. However, when he discovered that Qiao Nian had left, it was as though the energy left him. Sister left? Yi Wanchuan put down the stuff. He then checked on the messages on his phone and said, Let's go. She messaged that she's heading back for class. Oh. Yi Wanchuan noticed the disappointed look on his face and smiled. He patted him on the head and said nonchalantly, If you're obedient today, I will bring you along to fetch her after school. Is that true? He immediately raised his head. Yi Wanchuan was in a good mood as he put his phone away. He looked at him thoughtfully and answered, You must be obedient then. If he behaved, he would definitely consider bringing him along. Goosen entered the room and saw that they were talking. He then noticed that Qiao Nian wasn't around and asked, Master Wang, is Miss Qiao at school? Why is she not here? Goosen breathed a sigh of relief. Thank God Miss Qiao wasn't here. He could freely speak about some stuff now. He leaned towards Yi Wanchuan and whispered, Master Wang, someone is looking for a rare material at a high price on the black market. They had a monopoly on this material within the country. Even though it may not look like much, this material was applicable for aerospace materials and high-tech weapons. Hence, having control over this material meant controlling other things as well. This was only possible if you had enough power. Who is it? Yi Wanchuan asked, frowning. His eyes were deep, and no one could tell what was going on in his mind. Someone from the Red Alliance. Goosen answered, They were never involved in such things before. Why are they suddenly interested in this now? They even offered to exchange this with intelligence on top of money. As the Red Alliance worked for both sides of the law, they had access to a lot of classified information. They were even famous internationally. Master Wang, should we give it to them? Yi Wanchuan lifted his hands. His arms were beautiful, and he had shiny skin. They were just the right size with slender fingers. His nails were neatly trimmed. He answered after a while, Tell them to add more money to their offer. Goosen was speechless. You're not lacking in money in any way. Even though he thought about that, he answered obediently. All right. Yi Wanchuan looked at Yi Kitchen, who went to get a stool to cut some fruits for him in an attempt to get into his good books. He then asked, Have you found the doctor I asked you about? Goosen lowered his head in guilt and answered softly, This miracle doctor. He comes and goes any time he wants. I can't find him at all. Master Wang, could it be that he doesn't exist? Otherwise, why am I unable to find him? The black market is selling his medicine. He must exist. It's just that he's good at hiding. Keep searching. Goosen answered. Suddenly, he thought of something and asked, Master Wang, Miss Qiao knows how to perform surgery, right? Should we let her take a look at little young master? He wanted to laugh at what he just said. Qiao Nian was surrounded by so many surgeons that day, so she might have just been lucky. The little young master was too precious in the eyes of old Master Yi, who would dare to be responsible if anything went wrong. He touched his nose and continued, "Never mind, I'll continue my search." When school was over, Qiao Nian received a message with just 2 words, "More money." Her eyes widened in shock. She was so angry that she laughed. She offered 1,000,000,000 yuan, yet they asked for more. Such greed. She put her phone back in her bag. Suddenly, a Bentley stopped in front of her. The door opened, and a butler alighted from the car. He walked in front of her and blocked her path. Qiao Nian stopped in her tracks. She looked at the person with her hands in her pockets. "Are you Miss Qiao Nian?" The butler looked like he was in his 60s. His gray hair was combed back, and he was wearing a suit with a welcoming demeanor. He didn't look like trouble. Qiao Nian nonchalantly answered, "That's right. That's great. I was worried that I got the wrong person." The butler smiled and answered as he handed her an invitation card. Qiao Nian took the card. She frowned and asked, "What's this?" The butler smiled and answered, "Our matriarch will be having her 70th birthday soon, and she will be celebrating it in Rao City. She's sincere in inviting you. The date and location are stated on the invitation. Do join us if you're available." Qiao Nian opened the card and saw only 2 words written on it, "Tang Wei." Tang? She thought for a while, before remembering where she heard of that name before. It was on the first day after leaving the Qiao family. She was having a meal at the waterside loft. She bumped into Qiao Weimin and Qiao Chun having a meal with 2 ladies in traditional dresses. One of them was even close to her grandfather. She remembered having a conversation with her. She remembered that Tang Wei was Qiao Chen's teacher. The Tang family was powerful in Rao City. Hence, she expected a lot of people to be at the celebration. She didn't like crowds. Even though Qiao Nian wasn't interested, she accepted the card. She then replied, "We'll have to see about that." The butler wasn't disappointed. He replied with a smile and bowed to her. "We will be expecting you then." He had delivered the invitation. Hence, he didn't need to stay any longer. He then said so. "Miss Qiao, I will be heading off then." As the Bentley left, a familiar car stopped right in front of her. The windows were lowered and a kid's cute face popped out of the car. He looked at her excitedly and greeted her. "Sister." Qiao Nian took a look. Other than him, there was another person. The guy had a deep look on his face and wore a bracelet on his slender arms. Even though he gave off a sense of danger, he felt like a gentle soul. None other than Yi Wangchuan could emit such a vibe. Qiao Nian stared at him for a while. She was reminded of the way he carried her yesterday. She felt shy. "Sister, get in the car," Yi Kitchen said. Qiao Nian didn't hesitate. She opened the door and got in the car. Waterside loft. "All right, Master Wang." The driver wasn't Gu San, but someone unfamiliar. After Yi Wangchuan told the driver where to go, he turned to her and explained, "Chun Chin wanted to treat you to a meal. Uncle Chun hasn't woken up yet. We should be able to make it to the hospital in time after eating." All right, Qiao Nian was feeling hungry, so it was okay by her. Yi Kitchen rubbed his hands as he asked nervously, "Sister, do you like the food at the waterside loft? Uncle and Gu Sin mentioned that they serve the best food around here. I chose it because I didn't know your preferences. If you have something in mind already, we can go somewhere else instead." Yi Wangchuan was then reminded of the street cart that she chose when he offered to treat her to a meal. He was worried that she would suggest a place like that again. The boy was weak since young. He would often get stomach aches. However, Qiao Nian didn't suggest anything weird. She gently replied, "I like the waterside loft, actually." Yi Kitchen's eyes lit up. He was really happy. Hee, sister likes that place." Yi Wangchuan saw the thing that she was holding. He thought about it and asked, "What's that?" "You mean this?" Qiao Nian asked as she shook the card. "It's an invitation. Someone told me that the Tang matriarch is having a birthday celebration and invited me." "The Tang family?" Yi Wangchuan thought about it and wasn't surprised. It was going to be a huge celebration. He received the invitation too. The reason why Qiao Nian was invited must have been because the Tang matriarch met Qiao Nian at the waterside loft previously. Yi Wangchuan nodded and said, "Since they invited you, you should go." Qiao Nian didn't want to go, as the Qiao family would be there as well. However, the Tang matriarch was a close friend of her grandfather, and she couldn't make up her mind. She answered, "We'll see about that." After they were done with the meal, the three of them went to the hospital to visit Uncle Chun in the ICU. Aunt Chen and Chen Yuan were there as well. Qiao Nian spoke for a while with them before heading back. When she got back to her house, she immediately went up to the second floor. She immediately booted up her laptop and replied to Slim Waste Control. She told him that she was willing to pay 2 times her initial offer and asked him to tell her their response. The moment Qiao Nian replied to him, her phone rang. Qiao Chun was calling her. Why was Qiao Chun looking for her? She frowned and rejected the call. A notification popped up. It was Skinny Waste Control. Before she could see his reply, Qiao Chun called again. Buzz. The phone vibrated on the table. Oomph. Qiao Nian was pissed. Why was there no end to this? She looked at the phone and rejected the call again. However, she didn't put down her phone immediately this time. As she expected, Qiao Chun called for the third time. You could see the fury in her eyes as she rejected the call once again without hesitation. She wanted to see how persistent Qiao Chun was. At a restaurant near First High School, Chun-Shi booked a private room to treat Qiao Chun to a meal. Qiao Chun invited Zhao Jingwei as well. The food was on the table, but no one ate. They were all looking at Qiao Chun making a phone call. Chun-Shi couldn't sleep at all ever since she marked and tallied the examination script. This was because Class A's results were way better than the class she was teaching. She even applied for sick leave today and didn't dare to go to school. It was only when school was over that she dared to call Qiao Chun for a meal outside. She wanted to ask Qiao Chun for a favor. Since she was selected to be the best form teacher in the city, her career had been smooth sailing. It was the first time she was humiliated. It was all right for her to lose, actually. However, Shen Hui had an agreement with her to apologize to Qiao Nian and Chen Yuan if she lost. There was no way a 30-year-old like her was willing to apologize to a bunch of students. Her image would be ruined. Chun-Shi felt that it would be humiliating. Hence, she decided to ask Qiao Chun for help. So long as Qiao Nian didn't need her to apologize, Shen Hui wouldn't dare to ask her for an apology as well. When she saw Qiao Chun making a few calls after agreeing to help her, those calls were not picked up, Chun-Shi got nervous. She asked, Chun, is Qiao Nian still not picking up? She didn't understand what was going on. She heard that they were sisters, but Qiao Nian wasn't biologically related to the Qiao family. Hence, she was thrown out after they discovered that. The reason why she chose to stay in Rao City for her studies instead of heading back was that she wanted to use the Qiao family's influence. There shouldn't be any reason for Qiao Nian not to pick up Qiao Chen's calls. Qiao Chen looked a bit weird as she smiled awkwardly. She then softly said, "Sister must have forgotten her phone somewhere." However, she knew that it wasn't the case. Qiao Nian didn't want to pick up her calls intentionally. She usually rejected all her calls. Qiao Chun clenched her fists. She didn't want Chun-Shi to be disappointed and said, "Don't worry, Teacher Chun. I'll send her a text message. She'll definitely reply to me if she sees it." Zhao Jingwei complained. "She's such a hassle." Qiao Chun calmed herself down as she sent Qiao Nian a message. After a while, Qiao Nian received Qiao Chen's messages. Qiao Chen, "Sister, Teacher Chun is my form teacher. She's one of the best teachers in the school. Could you ask your form teacher to let her off, so she doesn't have to apologize to you?" Qiao Chun, "Teacher Chen couldn't bring herself to go to school today. She couldn't bring herself to ask to. Only you could do it and solve this situation. She didn't look down on you on purpose. She misunderstood because your grades were horrible in the past. Qiao Chun, you won already? There's no need for you to push things so far. She's a teacher and your student. It's not right for her to apologize to you. You'll still have to study there in the future, and she hasn't done anything wrong to you. Just tell the school that you don't need her apology." Qiao Nian propped her leg up as she read Qiao Chen's message. She smiled as she read those messages. If Class B won, would Qiao Chen do the same for her? It was obvious. Qiao Nian had a cold look in her eyes as she replied to Qiao Chun. After that, she blocked Qiao Chun and threw her phone aside. She then turned her focus to her own matters. Qiao Chun received her reply. When her phone rang, She thought that she was successful and smiled. She then confidently opened the message. However, when she saw Qiao Nian's reply, her face turned pale and then red. Hee, has Qiao Nian replied? Zhao Jingwei saw the message as she was sitting next to her. Qiao Chun was so angry that she was shaking. She couldn't hide her phone in time, and Zhao Jingwei saw everything. However, Zhao Jingwei wasn't tactful and read Qiao Nian's message out loud. Has the monastery in Paris burnt down, and you don't have a place to return to? Zhao Jingwei didn't know what it meant. She scratched her head and asked, what does that mean? Xiao Chen's face was red. She wanted to die. She didn't respond to Zhao Jingwei. She got up and said to Chun Shi, Teacher Chun, I'll call her for you again. She called immediately. However, only a female voice was heard. Sorry, the user you called has refused to pick up. Qiao Chen immediately understood what it meant. She clenched her fists so hard that they almost bled. Qiao Nian blocked her. Zhao Jingwei saw the look on her face. She immediately felt angry and sympathetic over it, and exclaimed, She's gone too far. Did she really think that she could do anything she wanted in first high school? The same thing happened last time. She must teach her a lesson. After Qiao Nian was done replying to the Red Alliance, she went down to get some water as she was thirsty. When she went down, she saw that Yi Wangchuan was on a call with someone. His voice was lowered. They doubled their offer. They're rich. Don't reply to them and keep them hanging. Wait for them to increase their offer again. Since when did I agree to their offer? Just leave them hanging. I'll decide if I feel like it. He saw that she was heading down and then continued, That's it. Handle the rest yourself. When Qiao Nian came down, he hung up the phone. He saw the cup that Qiao Nian was holding. He put his phone aside and said, There's milk in the fridge. Let me heat it for you. Qiao Nian didn't want milk, but he had gone to the kitchen already. She could only wait for him to get the milk. As she waited, she thought about who he was calling. As she thought about it, he returned with the warm milk. As he towered over her, Qiao Nian realized how tall he was. Her head was at the same height as his chest. As they were so close, Qiao Nian could almost hear his heartbeat. His heartbeat was strong and loud. Qiao Nian could feel her face warming up as she became shy. She wanted to move away from him. However, before she moved, a hand grabbed onto her waist. Don't move. There's a chair behind you, he said with his raspy voice. As they were so close together, it was as though he was speaking next to her ears. Qiao Nian felt even shyer as she tensed up. She could feel his warm breath on her neck, and it gave her a weird sensation. Yi Wangchuan was holding on to her to prevent her from falling. He then moved his hand away and passed her the warm milk. Be careful, it's hot. Qiao Nian nodded and started to sip on the milk. She wasn't sure the reason, but she felt really awkward. This was something that she had never encountered before. The atmosphere was weird, and she wanted to leave, but she couldn't bring herself to. Yi Wangchuan looked at her as she sipped on the milk. As he saw her silently sipping the milk with her almond-shaped face, he felt that she had a girl-next-door look. However, he witnessed another side of her just a few days ago at the hospital, so he knew that Qiao Nian wasn't as obedient as she looked. However, when he saw how shy she was, he was amused and smiled. He then tried to start a conversation. How's school? Qiao Nian loosened up a bit after having a topic to chat about. She replied nonchalantly, It's all right. Other than the fact that she had to listen to nonstop lectures by the teachers, everything was fine for her. She wanted more freedom, though. Yi Wangchuan took a long look at her and suddenly asked, Are you bullied in school? Define bullying, Qiao Nian asked. Was beating her considered bullying? Then, she wasn't bullied at all. The worst thing she faced was the rude messages from Qiao Chun just now, but she blocked her already. Yi Wangchuan thought about what he found out after calling first high school just now. He saw the indifferent look in her eyes and knew that she wasn't affected by them. He smiled and said, It's nothing. They then chatted for a while. He asked her to rest some more after noticing that she looked tired. When she left, he made another call. Jiangli. The next day, Qiao Nian went back to school. Shun Qingqing told her about the latest updates immediately. Shun Shi, the form teacher of Class B, was fired, and they were getting a new form teacher. Shun Yuan scoffed when he heard the news. She should have been fired long ago. She shouldn't be a teacher. Shun Qingqing nodded and agreed. That's right. How could a teacher be so biased against a student, especially when the student isn't from her class? Her teaching abilities are useless if she has a bad character. I'm so happy that she left. It's great. The school finally made the right decision for once. Liang Bowen saw how happy the two of them were and decided to throw them a wet blanket. He said, even though Chun-Shi left, Class B will still get a new form teacher. Also, haven't you heard? Shun Qingqing asked, heard what? Qiao Nian wasn't interested in their topic. However, she was still shocked that Chun-Shi was fired. She had a feeling that Yi Wangchuan was behind it. However, she didn't remember talking to him about Chun-Shi. She lowered her bag and took out a book. The next lesson was the physical education class. Everyone was excited about it, as it was one of their opportunities to unwind from studying. Qiao Nian wasn't feeling well, and I didn't want to join the class. There will be an open lecture by a famous professor from Qing University. I've heard that he will be dropping by for a couple of days every month to lecture about higher mathematics. The school will arrange for all the classes in their third year to attend it. Everyone in the class was shocked by what he said. Qing University? Professor? Coming to our school? That was ridiculous. Qing University was the top university in the country. Even though First High School was famous in Rao City, it was nothing compared to the schools in Beijing. Why was a professor from Qing University coming to their school? Liang Bowen looked at Qiao Nian and thought that Sister Nian was great at everything. However, her family situation was holding her back. He sighed and pouted. He then said, the student from Class B were saying that the professor is coming for the prettiest girl in our school. Her boyfriend is one of the top performers in the university and has a good relationship with the teachers in the school. The boyfriend had to ask the professor for a favor to come to our school. Since the argument between Class A and B, their relationship had deteriorated. Hence, everyone was upset that a professor from Qing University was coming because of Qiao Chun. No one wanted to continue the topic. Shun Qingqing frowned as she said, annoyed, Humph. Qiao Chun and the students from Class B will be boasting again. The professor must be blind. Can't he see that she's just a wallflower? Haha, she knew how to insult someone already. Liang Bowen poked her head and said, you're just jealous of her powerful boyfriend, right? Shun Qingqing glared at him as she ducked away. She then exclaimed, that's right. It's because the guys from our class are incapable. They aren't able to get a professor from Qing University here. Qiao Nian's phone suddenly rang. It was a message from Zhongli. Nian, your dad is worried about your studies in First High School. He has applied to host an open lecture for 3 days monthly at your school, and this will go on till you graduate. Qiao Nian rubbed her forehead as she succumbed to her fate. She had a strange feeling when she heard that the professor was from Qing University. All right, I'll be returning in a couple of days. Stay at home obediently, and I will bring gifts. Kissy face. Qiao Nian saw the emoji at the end of the message. She was disgusted by how a grown man would send something like this and deleted the message. Shun Qingqing noticed that Qiao Nian was focused on her phone and not saying a word. She thought that Qiao Nian was affected by Qiao Chen's news. So she walked over, patted her, and asked, Sister Nian, what's the matter? Qiao Nian kept her phone and replied nonchalantly, nothing. Oh, Shun Qingqing didn't think too much about it and joined the discussion about the professor from Qing University. The news that a professor from Qing University was coming to First High School to lecture was on First High School's forum. Not only were the students from First High School discussing it, but even netizens were also talking about it. Qing University was one of the best universities in the country. Hence, Qiao Chun was the talk of the town during this period. The Qiao family was getting fame from it as well. When Shun Xiongji and He Yujuan went out for gatherings, they would be the center of the discussion. People would compliment them on their abilities to teach their daughter that she was able to find such a capable boyfriend. Even Madame Fu heard about it and asked Fu Ge. However, Fu Ge didn't answer the question. Even though she was a bit upset that he did this for Qiao Chun, she was still happy that he was so influential in Qing University. Look at her son. Even the professors from Qing University were willing to do him a favor. Everyone knew that the professors from Qing University weren't just great at teaching. They were also the best researchers in their domain of research. Hence, They were highly respected in the country and were a part of the inner circle in Beijing. If Fu Gu could ask his professor to hold an open lecture in Rao City, this meant that he could ask him to get into the upper echelon of society. Just when everyone was discussing this matter, Qiao Chen wrote a post on Weibo. "Thank you, my love. I'm so glad to have you in my life." It was just a few words, but it was a short and sweet sentence. It essentially admitted to everyone that the professor from Qing University was coming to First High School because Fu Gu asked his mentor for her. Everyone went crazy in the comments. I envy their relationship. There are good men on this earth, after all, just that I'm not worthy of them. Crying face. She's so pretty and kind. Yet, I don't even wash my hair for 3 days already. What kind of torture is this? A person more capable than you managed to find a boyfriend that's even more capable. Let's toast to this. We will be single in the future. She was already famous for being the prettiest artiste. However, this incident made her even more famous. Even the official Weibo gave her an official tag in her newest post. Qiao Chen's followers on Weibo increased by the minute. It was as though she was a superstar. The forum for First High School was all about her and Fu Gu. Qiao Chen was the talk of the town. However, Qiao Nian didn't care about all of it and continued with her day. She continued going to school and to the hospital to visit Uncle Chen after school. When she encountered Qiao Chen in school, she would pretend that she didn't see her and walked away nonchalantly. She didn't pay much attention to Qiao Chen, but she noticed that there was a girl who looked really angry next to Qiao Chen every time. The anger from her felt as though she had murdered the girl's family. Qiao Nian only noticed this girl. When she returned to the classroom, she noticed that Shun Qingqing was hiding something that seemed to have been taken from under her desk. She frowned, entered the classroom, and asked, "What's the matter?"